I wrote on my Instagram post that, the saying, the barn's burnt down, I can now see the moon, just to watch my business burn down in a matter of 6 hours, because we had to let go of all of our spa employees. In order for there to be a business when they return, I had to call 25 employees and lay them off. And that was like one of the most painful things I've ever had to do.
Hey, healthcare providers, you're listening to the Burnt Out to Lit Up podcast. Hosted by myself, Erica, and my husband, Michael. We're an OTPT team that understands the healthcare industry's got some serious issues.
Inspired by our own experience with burnout, we've made it our mission and passion to help you navigate your career in healthcare by cultivating wellness, growing both personally and professionally, and advocating for a better workplace.
Whether you are a clinician or manager, new grad or seasoned vet, join us each week as we share interviews, research, stories, and strategies that will give you the tools to go from burnt out to your most lit up self.
Let's dive in.
Hey, it's Erica.
And Mike.
Welcome to the show. So, little update. Mike's physical therapy travel contract ended. We made a decision in less than 24 hours to fly home to be near Mike's family. During this time, as you know, travel therapy, the whole scene right now is getting hit hard with the coronavirus, and we're quarantining ourselves. We're in an Airbnb, and it's been like day 2 so far, or day 3? Technically day 3.
3 of quarantine.
Yeah. So how are you doing? Isn't that such a loaded question nowadays?
Yeah.
Don't you feel that, Mike?
Everyone's just like, I'm well enough.
People are taking it day by day. And, this episode and the episode we're releasing in 2 weeks from now is, weren't supposed to, or we didn't plan for it to involve, information about the virus, but it's what everyone's talking about. It's what's on everyone's minds. So we have moved our podcast episodes around. We were supposed to, release things a certain way, but because these newer episodes that we recorded had a talk about the virus, we figured it'd be more relevant for you to release those sooner. So just wanted to give that disclosure. But anyway, I've been overdrive. My mind has been in overdrive trying to figure out how to be of service to this healthcare community. And, there's a lot of attention, rightfully so, on the quote unquote, frontline healthcare workers and their doctors, nurses, PAs. But, since I'm an OT, Mike's PT, and a lot of people that follow us and that are in our community are also a lot of OTs and PTs, there's a lot of chaos and confusion for rehab professionals, like what to do when you're doing home health and there's no extra precautions taken, and there's a lot of sticky situations I'm reading about from my club members in our subscription and from Instagram and from Facebook, and it's like my head is spinning trying to keep up with everyone is faced with a unique situation, and it's boils down to an ethical dilemma. Like, do I quit my job? Do I what do I do when I may be a carrier and I could potentially be infecting patients if I continue to see them? And there's a lot to be said. And Mike, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's just an utterly devastating time for this profession, for rehab, for a lot of allied health. Any non-essential service is unemployed right now, or in all rights should be.
And so I was actually talking to 2 of my club members last night. We did a group meditation, and I didn't tell you this, Mike, but they have their companies issued them letters of necessity for certain patients, so that if the police were to get involved, they have this letter that this patient must be seen. They're not doing it for every patient. They are determining who is critical.
Like post-ops or
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
That makes
Post-ops.
sense.
People that are at serious risk for declining and getting hospitalized, which we don't want
Yeah.
those people getting hospitalized right now. Like OT, PT, like everything, like we
Yeah, I
are
can see that.
essential in these cases. But it's like, you know, I think organizations too are trying to grasp at straws for how to keep their doors open and putting their employees in danger, essentially.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of bad stuff out there.
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
hearing a lot of bad stuff. I'm stirred up because I'm like taking on everyone's like, you know, problems, and
It's hard to give advice in those situations.
it's hard to give advice because
you don't know what the right thing to do is really a lot of the times.
Right, because I can't tell you quit your job and apply for unemployment, because actually, didn't you say that there's some stipulations around unemployment? Like you can't
It depends
quit.
on the state.
Yeah, it depends on the state you're in. So
I'm looking for the state of Florida because that's where my home address is, despite the fact that I haven't worked there in, you know, however many years. But apparently that's how you do it. If you're a traveler, that's what I've heard. Don't quote me on it though. But anyway, they have stipulations like you can't quit. Like you can't have quit your job and then apply for unemployment. You have to have lost your job because of no fault of your own, because of, you know, XYZ circumstances. So look up your own states. You know, they might be more lenient with that, but Florida, that's just what it is there.
right, and know your rights.
It's just hard to even do.
It's hard to do. It's hard to say that. I mean, these are uncharted territories we're all facing. Yeah. And some counties, like if your clinic is in a county where there's no cases, it could be so easy to justify, you know, business as usual, you know? But it's like there's a lot of, you know, states now. Like we just came from Washington. 2 days after we left Washington, they have a stay-at-home order, or shelter-in-place order, and
but honestly, they have less cases than New York right now, which is we moved closer to like the new epicenter now. It's like they always say that Washington's ground zero, but I mean New York City is now looking like it's worse.
I read somewhere that, you know, New York has reached its apex.
That's good, right?
I'm not sure. It was someone's Instagram post, so I'm not sure how valid that is.
Does that mean like cases start to decline now? I don't know.
This is like, you know, this is difficult. We don't have all the answers. You know, what I'm trying to do, and I want to be really clear about this, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to respond in a way that aligns with our mission. And I am doing my best to give you coping strategies and coping resources on how to deal with the stressors. That's why I came out with the free patient break cards, you know, considering the employees that have to go to work. You know, so many OTs that work in hospitals have to go to work. You know, they have implemented new rules, like no visitors, you know, maybe one person in the gym. But then I'm reading online that people are, you know, the sniff gyms are still packed.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's what my recruiter said. Sniffs are kind of business as usual.
Right. And these are people, you know, patients and sniffs are already compromised.
Yeah.
So that's not safe.
So the therapists are going out to the grocery store once a week. They're around people, then they're coming back, and then they're treating in the gym. So
you should see our faces right now. I'm so stressed because I don't know what the answer is.
I think here's the problem with the stress with this whole thing, and this is something that I kind of felt earlier in the month when all this started happening, was that I was holding on so tight to like normal life continuing to occur for the first 2 weeks of March, right? And it wasn't until I like just fully accepted what was happening, like I'm not gonna have work, I'm gonna be unemployed for the first time in my life. You know, these are all the things that's affecting people, and I just have to go with the flow. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it's like I was just holding on way too tight. I was like, nope, still a possibility that we're going to do our trips. There's still a possibility that this is going to be overblown. It's just the flu, blah, blah, blah. It's like I said all those things to myself. And it was like when I had that mindset, every piece of news that made that not true was just stressing me out so much more. And then I finally just let go. And I feel way better now, even though we're sitting in an Airbnb thousands of miles from where we want to be working, unemployed, in quarantine. I still feel better than I did back then. So you just have to let go, you know?
Right. And it's, you know, it's hard because some people listening have to go to work and are questioning the ethics of their company. Like, should I be seeing these patients? Do I have enough PPE? I'm being forced to see patients without PPE. And I know the healthcare community right now, you know, if you're on Instagram, you've seen the memes of the bandanas. The CDC said it. Well, if you run out of masks, wear bandanas. And that's clearly not right. I mean, so, you know, we're all just trying to figure this out. And the way we can support you
They
best.
are too. Don't forget that. The people who are in charge of these situations, they're just trying to figure it out too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like people are really hard on regulators right now. They're really hard on leadership. And it's like no one knows how to handle this situation. You can argue that maybe they should have, or maybe they should have been more prepared. But we're at where we're at.
Yeah, I was listening to something. I was listening to we love the podcast called Star Talk Radio by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he had the leader for like disaster preparedness, or I can't tell you the exact job position, but he said the CDC usually is more prepared but isn't prepared. I don't know the backstory there. Just want to, you know, I know there's a lot of, you know, I don't want to open that can of worms.
Yeah, there's politics to discuss here. I mean, we don't normally do that here on the show, but
I'm not well informed in politics to be able to, you know, contribute.
Yeah.
To any sort of conversation about like this.
It's hard to say though in any case how we would have been prepared at all for this situation, regardless of what this administration or that administration had been doing.
I think there's a lot we're going to learn from this nationally and globally. You know, I read a really promising article about the positive ways that our society is going to change and learn from this. So I'll share that
post that.
Yeah, I will. I'll share it in the episode notes. But what I was going to say before is that how we can best serve you is by, you know, I'm doing live meditations every day on Instagram, joy.energy.time. For the club members, we're doing like this week, we're doing 3 Zoom calls where I'm pumping out as many resources as I possibly can on Instagram and for my club members. So I'm just trying to...
You have to let go a little bit too.
I have to let go. I'm really stressed.
You're like really holding on. You're like white knuckling this situation right now.
I want to fix everything and everyone, but I realize that really none of us can do that. But what I'm working on is just holding the space for people to receive moral support throughout all of this. I also created a master list of de-stress resources and ideas inside the club as well. So if you haven't joined our wellness subscription, I want to remind you that your first full month is free. So the doors are open to healthcare providers that want that extra support. There's always support in there, but I feel like now we really need that space. Or you can subscribe to our online network. Also, the emails I've been sending out have resources. One of the things I posted I sent in the email was the Headspace is offering free subscriptions to healthcare providers through 2020. If you have your MPI number, you can enter that. So I'm always trying to think of like wellness resources for you, and I've been making emails and sending them accordingly. So I'm constantly reinventing how I can show up and support and offer
That's
resources.
Really valuable that Headspace did that. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of businesses are showing a lot of generosity, and which has inspired me to show more and more generosity. And I'm also doing a lot of lives on Instagram, I forgot to say, not just the meditations, but like going live with others to talk about certain areas around coping during this time. So just constantly thinking of ways to help. So we can't forget to introduce our guest. Angela Jia Kim is a former concert pianist turned founder of Savor Beauty, a natural skincare, facial spa, and self-care journal brand inspired by Korean beauty rituals. The award-winning serums, creams, cleansers, peels, and masks are made sustainably and ethically by women in the Hudson Valley. The products are delivered fresh to its 3 New York spas for Savor Spa's signature specialty facials, which have been chosen by editors from Allure, Goop, and Elle as best of New York. Angela Jia Kim is mom to daughter Sienna and a mini golden Zoe. They reside in New York City's Upper West Side. So I like this interview, a little bit different given the times, and I think, people's, like I said earlier, our attention, I think what's going on right now largely impacted like the topic of the interview, but in a positive way. So we don't really dwell on anything negative. I find this interview to be inspiring. There's a lot of lessons that, she shares, and some hardships that have happened to her and her business as a result of the virus. So, yeah.
So to help some of your healthcare provider friends,
share this episode, our podcast to anyone that needs it. And if you've been a long-time listener, or you just started listening and you really like us, please leave a little review on iTunes, and most importantly, subscribe to our show on iTunes.
Love it.
Super. We appreciate you.
Good luck out there, folks. Keep your hopes high.
Keep your heads on.
Keep your heads up.
Keep your heads on and up.
Yeah, keep them on. I mean,
yes.
That's the first priority.
Yes.
Okay.
Priority number 1. And then keep your head up.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're signing off from our quarantine zone. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye. One of our club members, Danielle, wrote in one of the threads we have in the club, "It is so awesome to be a part of this community and to collaborate and empower one another to support optimal wellness and growth within our own practice areas." Woo! Go Danielle. I am so excited by how the club is turning out. The Joy Energy Time Club is our subscription-based private club for healthcare professionals. And inside the club, we offer resources to help you with stress management, burnout, enhancing your personal growth and your professional growth practices. Not only will you get these weekly resources, but you are also joining us at Joy Energy Time as a founding member, meaning you'll have early, very important person, VIP access to our upcoming products, events, and all the things we have in store for you. So when you join us, you are joining us in on our mission to live your most lit up existence, and you are joining a community of other healthcare professionals that are in it to grow themselves and to support one another. If you're interested in joining us, visit at joyenergytime.com/club, and you can join there. There are 2 options, either month to month or an annual subscription. Do what works for you. We can't wait to greet you and welcome you inside the club. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I am doing as well as I could be under the current climate and circumstances that's going on in this crazy world.
Yes, likewise. And I disclosed to Angela before we started to record that I am sleep deprived. I haven't slept well at all in the past 2 days. And right now, at the time of this recording, we are undergoing a lot of stress due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. So we're both hanging in there. like I totally agree with you. I'm doing the best I can given the circumstances. And so let's start with you and your story, and I'm sure we'll get into self-care and all those different things later on, but yes. I want to start with who you are and your story, because you had such an interesting journey as a pianist, and I would love to hear more about it.
Well, I'm a former concert pianist. I'm an entrepreneur, a beauty entrepreneur, and I'm a mom, a New Yorker. I in terms of what I'm passionate about in life. I love food. I just love food so much. I enjoy deep conversations with friends, with close ones, with loved ones. I am always looking, I guess you could call me a spiritualist, in that that's how I grow my businesses. I always try to look for the deeper meaning. I love to think very deeply and feel very deeply. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
Nice. So, what got you into the musical world in the first place? And then also, why did you, or what led you to transition out of it?
So I really was just plopped on a piano bench. My mom was a pianist and she was my first piano teacher. So I think I was just born into it. I am Korean, and I know a lot of Koreans value classical music and the arts. So this is just destined for me, I think, from the moment I was born. And then I just happened to be good at it. I think it's because I had a mom who made me practice. And that was my identity for the first 30 years of my life. And what transitioned myself out of this is I just burnt out. I got very burnt out from the travel, from practicing, from being very critical, judgmental. So I burnt out on so many levels. And that's really what got me to want to explore new creative adventures.
Mm. So, you experienced burnout. And when you were in that, did you regard yourself as a successful pianist? Like, did you find yourself successful, or was it something like you can never, because I have this problem where no matter like what level I achieve, it's not enough. It's, and I'm always like striving for that next level.
Well, I was actually concertizing. So in the music world, if you're actually able to make any money from your art, it's considered good. But I was definitely, you can always be better. You can always be playing in better venues. You can always be doing better. My motto, and many classical musicians' motto, is it can always be better. And the day that you stop growing is the day that you may as well die, and I think that is the mindset of a musician. I was a poor, starving artist. By no means was I making a lot of money, but I felt very fortunate to be concertizing. And I think in terms of, was I a success? Definitely not inside. Everything was based on my last performance. Everything was based on the approval of others. And I compare that to today. So it's interesting because I've done a lot of inner work. I've done a lot of reflection. I've gotten into meditation. I've gotten into self-care, self-love. And I was just texting a friend of mine today. We were talking about today's climate. So I've built this multi-million-dollar skincare spa brand called Savor Beauty. And this is 10 years after I burnt out as a concert pianist. I have 40 employees. We have 3 spa locations. And literally, and because of this pandemic, the coronavirus that's going on right now, our city has ordered, non-essential businesses, like restaurants, bars, to close down. They've predicted it's going to be a 6-month crisis. And so we felt that it's our social responsibility for our employees, our team, and for our community, and for the business to shut down for X amount of months. We don't know how long it's going to be. And that's really scary. And I wrote on my Instagram post that, the saying, the barn's burnt down, I can now see the moon, just to watch my business burn down in a matter of 6 hours, because we had to let go of all of our spa employees. Oh. In order for there to be a business when they return, I had to call 25 employees and lay them off. And that was like one of the most painful things I've ever had to do. And, the thing that is interesting is then, we have to make all these cuts, and to grow a business and take so much time to grow this business and put so much love, blood, tears, and sweat into this. And then it just, like, in a day, it's just disintegrated, and it'll be back. I know it'll be back, and I know we'll start again. And I know the burnt down. I can see the moon, and I've seen so many amazing things come out of this. And I'm feeling really optimistic and happy and strong and resilient. But what I was saying to my friend over text was, what's interesting? This is all going down right now, but I feel really alive. I feel strong. I feel like myself, and I don't feel like I've lost anything. And that the free things in life are really hugs and kisses and love, And so am I more successful monetarily than I was as a concert pianist? Definitely, but that's not my definition of success. I think my definition of success today is how I feel inside. So when things are not going the way I want it to go, Erica, I feel really good. You can take all this success away. You can take away whatever it is that you need to take away from me. And then at the end of the day, like, I just feel like I have myself inside of me, and I feel fulfilled and whole. Does that make sense?
Yes. And thank you for sharing all that and being vulnerable with that, because it's not easy for so many people. Like, just in the matter of a week, things have changed so much, and even hour to hour, things are changing. And I think that's such a beautiful, way to view success. That's not necessarily the things that, like the external things that have happened, but it's your internal state. And someone can be a success from the outside, but on the inside, they don't feel like they're good enough. So I think it's really important to look at your own personal, having that like spiritual connection of how you feel, regardless of the outcomes, regardless of the world falling apart, or, the last performance, or, the last, whatever it is, just having that internal definition of success. And I think that's really tied to resilience. And, I know you've talked about resilience, and, now is a particularly good time to talk about that. And that's something I've also talked about in my presentations when I teach healthcare professionals how to address burnout, and resilience is one part of that. So from your personal experiences, before this, during this, how would you define resilience, and what are some steps that people can take to start to build resilience?
I love that word. I think that word is so beautiful, resilience, even the way it just rolls off the tongue and the way it sounds, and it's so melodic and musical. I love that word, resilience. So for me, resilience is the ability to, again, I'm going to say that again, the barn's burnt down. I can now see the moon, and then just build that barn right back up. It's just seeing that something has crumbled, or you've got disappointment, and just to get up and one foot in front of the other, just start rebuilding. And no matter how you feel about it. So I feel like we can do this, and it's all about how we're going to view what's happened. Because for a lot of us, that barn has really burnt down, right? And a lot of us are starting from scratch. And I find it slightly, and I don't want to minimize what anybody's feeling. I mean, I am really sad. I am so sad that I had to let go of my second family. I'm really sad that everything that we worked for is just come to a halt. I'm so sad that in my spas, we're not able to provide the healing. I'm sad that I'm not around the people that, I enjoy working with so much, and there's a lot of I know, anxiety that's going on. But part of me feels hope, right? There's hope that now we're stripped away from so much of our comforts, and we have to stay at home. And now we can work on the things that matter. Now we can have the opportunity to get bored. And I think boredom is really, really important, because that's when you start to do things that kind of matter, right? You could start reading again. You could start meditating. You could start exercising. You could start doing yoga. You could start cleaning out your closets. You can start doing self-care. You could start taking baths. You can start cooking. There's a lot of things that we can start doing that's going to help us to rediscover who we are, and then maybe do things the right way again, like build a new team with different values, with different weight structures, or reevaluate what is it that you want in your life. And now that everything's been cleared out, and when things start coming back in, can we be a little bit more mindful of the people, the activities the habits, the rituals, the routines that we're going to come back in, that we're going to bring back into our lives. I think it's an excellent moment for us to have a renewed sense of what's the inventory we're going to bring in, right? So I'm actually, I hate to use this word because I don't want to minimize what anyone's using, but I feel excited, and I feel like there's hope that we can all start again. Renewal, refreshed, rejuvenated. This is the time for us to take that, you know?
Yeah, that's a great perspective, a mindset shift that I think a lot of us could really use when there's a lot of feelings of despair and when your whole world has been turned upside down. Holding on to optimism. And I believe that optimism and resilience are connected. And there's also some evidence and some research about that too, how these are just positive resources, like psychological resources for us to have. And especially during hard times, we do get that opportunity to renew ourselves and facing ourselves. I like how you said about having the opportunity to be bored, because then we're really faced with the things in our closets that we have to address. Maybe we have been putting off that spiritual self-care, or maybe we've been putting off taking care of our bodies. And now is the time to look inward and think about, what do I need to heal from, and how can I do that right now?
I think right now is an optimal moment for us to step back and take that time that we don't, honestly, none of us really have, right? There isn't, when have we ever had the time to do this kind of inner work?
Yeah.
And I know it's a really scary time for so many of us, right? Let's not minimize it. It's horrible for a lot of us.
Right. And I always I'm finding the silver lining of this is, a horrible situation. Like for my husband and I, we didn't just cancel a vacation because we did have a vacation, but my listeners know our story. We're traveling. Well, not we, but my husband's a traveling physical therapist, so his job contract is ending. We don't have a home next week. It's just couldn't be any worse timing. So, my audience knows that situation for us, but I know we're all things couldn't be, we feel like they couldn't be worse, but we know they can. But it's everything sucks, but also finding that silver lining and being excited.
Yes.
So I love that you brought that up. And I know, you mentioned that your background is Korean, and I wanted to tap into how you approach self-care. Does your background, or has your background influenced how you approach self-care?
So it's interesting because my background is a total cacophony of contradicting ideas. So I'm, a Korean, as you just said, and I feel like Korean culture is so much about beauty and well-being. And I love this aspect of my Korean heritage, where in the ancient times, it was really believed that your inner and outer beauty were one. And so your outer beauty was really a reflection of how well you are inside. And I think that's reflected. I actually believe that's the reason why Koreans are obsessed with skincare today, because of that ancient belief. And Korean skincare is like $1 billion industry. I don't know if you know that. And the beauty industry is obsessed with K-beauty, Korean beauty. And so I think that's where it stems from. So if you go to Korea, there are all these spas, and you go with your family, and you can sit in saunas, you can sit in infrared, tunnels, it's caves, sorry, not tunnels, caves. And you get these body scrubs from head to toe, massages. It's a really beautiful way to detox and relax. And of course, you have your self-care rituals. And my mom always taught me, treat your skin like the most expensive silk on earth. It's just beautiful. And you take your time to wash your face the right way, thoroughly. And some Korean women, spend up to an hour with 15 products taking care of their skin. So that part of it, I really love. And then the way I was brought up, and I think this is part of the Korean culture, is super duper hard work. my dad would wake up at 4 a.m. and he would just work. That's when I remember my dad. I remember that that's what he did. He instilled in me this incredible sense of work ethic and productivity in my life. And my family in particular, you know, my grandfather was, he moved here when he was 27. I don't think his grasp of the English language was that extraordinary, but when he moved here, he learned the English language. He became a celebrated English author, was published in Harper's Bazaar, you know, Vanity Fair. I mean, he was published and he won all of these awards, and he became an English professor in Pennsylvania. So that takes incredible amount of work, right? And then my great uncle, who's my grandfather's brother, was the Korean ambassador to the United States during the Carter and Reagan administration. And he was an attorney, and, you know, he was really accomplished. So my family they're hard workers. You don't achieve this level of success without working. And so I feel like that's why I said it's this cacophony of contradictions, because there's this one side where it's like my dad's side, it's like work yourself to the bone. You've got to achieve and become success. And then my mom's side, which is a little bit more self-care and massage your face for an hour and put creams on, you know? And so, yeah, I think that's sort of how I grew up, you know? And so that's why I burnt out. And that's why I was able to save myself through self-care.
That's an interesting, wow, so interesting that you have that story of the two dichotomies of work hard. And, you know, my grandparents were immigrants. So like I saw that in my grandfather. Well, I mean, I didn't see it when I was growing up because he was older and didn't work, but like that's, you know, the stories and knowing what they came from. I can relate to that, coming from that sort of background, but minus the self-care. So, you know, how can people, especially my listeners that are primarily healthcare professionals, how can people strike that balance between being a workaholic? I mean, that's not, first of all, the name in and of itself, it's not something, you know, one should strive to become, but like, you know, there's a lot of people that work a lot and without knowing it may slip into that workaholism, and, you know, striking the balance between hard work, but also taking care of yourself.
I just think it's very important for people to schedule in activities, schedule in that daily meditation, schedule in something for your body, schedule in something for exercise. Again, scheduling in, you know, that bath. Every night I do a beauty ritual, even though it only takes me a minute. It's something that I do every single night religiously. I have a self-care planner that Savor Beauty produces, that in the morning, you know, it's called the Savor Life Planner. And in the morning, there's the AM ritual and the PM ritual, where you do one thing for your skin, one thing for yourself, and one thing for your soul. And I think that self-care and the antidote to workaholism is doing a lot of inner work. That's why I think this time is really important, Erica, that we get bored and then we get to know ourselves again. You know, I always say to my daughter, it's funny, I should follow my own excuse. Bored people are boring, because she was always like, Mommy, I'm bored. And I'm like, well, you know, boring people are bored, or bored people are boring. So find something to do, you know, or I think this is a time to get to know ourselves. Like, who are you for real? You know what I mean? And what do you really want out of life? Can you feel your inner energy? That's why meditation has become very interesting to me, because it's like you just sit with yourself and can you feel your soul, and what does that even feel like? I had this interesting experience where I was meditating and I was just like watching my thoughts, you know, awareness. And I was like watching the thoughts that was coming in, and I was like, okay, my inner world, your inner world is like a living room. And instead of becoming the thoughts, I'm just going to kind of name it. So this thought would come in and I'd be like, oh, pain has decided to come visit you. Pain. This is a painful thought. And you're choosing to invite pain in. And she's saying these things to you. But I'm not going to feel pain. I'm just going to listen to what she's saying. And suddenly those painful thoughts pain, the visitor pain just started to dissipate. I know I'm getting a little bit deep here, and I hope you're.
Oh yes, please
It's,
get deep.
yeah. And then like another thought would come in and I'd be like, oh, lack just came to visit you. And this is like, oh my God, what are you going to do to make money? Or how are you going to do this? If this falls down, you know, this business falls down, and what are you going to do? How are you going to pay all these people? And I was like, oh, lack decided to visit you. You invited her into your home. So I'm just listening to the chit chat and I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting attached to that inner chatter. And then slowly these thoughts, these fears start to dissipate because I'm not becoming it. For once in my life, I was like, I'm not going to become this. So it's okay, you know, and then that started to go away and I started to feel inside, who am I? And I started to feel the energy of who I am. And I was like, it feels so soft and warm. And when I sit with it, it becomes more powerful. And I realized that because there's been this layer of me becoming my thoughts, which are lack or being fearful or whatever, I start to protect this warm, soft energy. But when I don't have all this crazy, all this chatter, and I'm just sitting with this warmth, there's so much love. And suddenly I'm able to connect with people easier. Suddenly I'm able to connect with myself easier. And so let me bring this back to your question, because suddenly I got really deep when we started talking about workaholism, because workaholism is, I think, evidence of being very attached to fear, being very attached to these thoughts of, oh my gosh, I've got to chase after something and I've got to go after it in an unhealthy, balanced way, or else I'm not enough. And I think there's a difference between working because you're passionate and working because you're running away from something, which are these lack, fearful thoughts. Does that make sense? And I think the reason why I know so much about this topic is because I was that workaholic who got burnt out. And I think everything comes from an energy of intention. And so if your intention and energy is all about the lack and what you don't have enough, then you're going to keep approaching your work that way. And you're going to attract clients who are like that. And you're going to attract work like that. And you're going to exude that. But if you're coming from a place of love, and like, let me go back to my center, which everyone has a different center, right? And getting to know that center and feeling it. And sometimes you don't even have to put words to it. You just sit with it. And mine, and I'm curious what yours feels like, Erica, but mine feels like sunshine and radiance and like softness and warmth. And when I sit with it, suddenly that's my intention. And that's where I'm coming from when I attract people, and I attract people who are like that. And suddenly when I'm with people, I can sense that their energy is not in vibration or alignment with the energy that I'm exuding, and that I feel so deeply because I sat with it for a while, that it's no longer resonating. And that person is not a bad person, but we're just not vibrating at the energy level that is going to manifest the results or the desired outcome for the experience that we want to manifest. So I need to say goodbye to that person. I need to say goodbye to that experience. And I become very clear. And it doesn't, you know, when you kind of accept something that's less than, and you know that it's less than your vibration. Have you ever done that, Erica?
Yes.
Right. And so you're attracting these experiences, these people, these connections that are not matching. It's because you haven't spent enough time with your true essence and your inner energy. It hasn't come to light enough. So then you're not sure. And so you haven't plugged into that inner authenticity, that you're not in alignment, and that inner essence is not strong enough, right? So when you spend more time with it, you just know it's not even an aggressive feeling. It's just, no, that's not in alignment. That's not vibrating where I need to be, where I'm vibrating. So you just like let it go with love. And then you start attracting people into your life that are really in alignment with that, and experiences that are in alignment with that. Mm-hmm. And workaholism is not in alignment with that. And so that's why I'm like, it's not about stop working. It's not about find the activities. I think it's getting to know that inner essence, you know, which is really hard, which is why I would suggest reading a book called The Untethered Soul. There are a lot of people who are talking about this. And I would strongly suggest that book. I really love following Young Pueblo. Do you know Young Pueblo?
Yes.
Yeah, I love his work. I think his message is really in alignment um, with what is really important in today's world. So there are people talking about this, and what I'm saying is very daunting. But find a meditation class, and I think the most powerful thing for me was when I said I'm going to separate myself into two people: one who's observing, and one who's just feeling that inner essence. And you don't have to push it. It's just start to pay attention to the visitors in your inside home. And once you become detached from those inner voice, the inner thoughts, a lot is going to be freed. It's amazing. Okay, Erica. Whoa, I've talked way too much.
No. I've been observing everything, and I'm really grateful, honestly, that you went that deep into this, because this is the really uncomfortable part of, facing why we do the things we do that we need to get to. And because I've been meditating for a few years, like, I can understand what you're talking about with like detaching from those thoughts. It's to say it, it's one thing, but to like do it is another thing. And I have to admit, I've been doing a poor job, or not as good as a job as I usually do with this, like this week. Cause like I said, like I can't fall asleep. My mind is going a million miles per hour, even after I meditate. Like I can't find, I'm struggling right now with all the uncertainty, but I love that you said how, the root of workaholism is that we are caving into this fear of not being good enough or having to chase the next thing. And we're not really facing, like, it's, like, for example, in some of the research I've done with workaholism and burnout and being overengaged and kind of like the connection between all of them, what I've found is that, with workaholism, you're kind of, hiding from, like you said, like your true essence. You're hiding from that. And, with being overengaged, it could be just like a facade. Like, I appear to be overengaged at work. I appear to be so involved with my work, but I can actually be very miserable inside. So, we can see someone that is so attached to their title, so attached to their work, but in reality, they could be so disconnected from themselves, but they're covering that up with how much they work. And that was like the deepest answer that I really appreciate, because it's the truth, and we needed to go there. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I thank you for letting me share that. I wanted to say, it's okay if you're not. There are times when you're just not going to get it, right? And I think part of all of it is about not being judgmental for yourself. Like, if I said to you, Erica, I'm having a really hard time, I can't sleep, I'm not mastering this meditation, what would you say to me?
Some people might say you're not trying hard enough, but like I wouldn't say that, because you are trying. It's that we're still attached. Like, you're still attached to those thoughts, and you're probably in a smaller, more contracted place, like fear-based thinking, what if, versus surrendering to that and letting those thoughts go. Like, it's, like, if you, for example, if you like succumb to those fear-based thoughts, like, you can choose again the next moment and surrender. Like, it's not all or nothing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is, first of all, you're not trying hard enough. I think it's kind of the opposite of what we want to be telling ourselves right now. It's like, no, meditation isn't about trying hard. It's just about being, and if right now you are just being anxious, I mean, that's a visitor, right? And you just say, this is like a visitor, a thought visitor that's coming in. I'm not going to attach my inner being to that vibration. And just even by saying that, you are already separating yourself by even acknowledging that that is not you. You've already done the work of separating. That's congratulations. That's huge. The fact that you can say, I'm having anxious thoughts, but that's not who I am. And being able to even get to that point where you recognize that, to me anyway, that's big for me. I also want to, I just found out that my emotional fitness gym, I'm so happy, decided to go virtual. So I belong to this place called Frequency Mind. It's in Chelsea in New York City. And I go maybe once a week to go for meditation. I'm a member there. I just found out that they have turned everything virtual. So I would strongly suggest going to frequencymind.com. You could join them for their virtual classes. It's very powerful. I don't know how to describe it, but it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's what got me into meditation. So check that out.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that recommendation. I'll include that in the episode notes too, so people can check that out. Yes, I love that, what you mentioned before, before we wrap up, because I know that I have done that exercise. Like, I've done those exercises where I've identified those thoughts. Like, I have anxious thoughts, versus trying to ignore it or pretend that it's not there, which makes it worse. But like, totally inviting that in and say, I acknowledge it for what it is, but it isn't me. And that's the big differentiator. And also, I know your team sent me your planner, your Savor Beauty planner, so I have it. And I love how you have the AM PM space in your planner to incorporate your rituals, your morning and evening rituals. So I love first of all how you have just combined, you know, skincare and self-care from a more physical perspective, turning that inward to like self-care from a soulful perspective, and how they all can kind of coexist. So thank you and your team for sending me that. And where can people find you and connect with you?
Okay, so I play a lot on Instagram, and you can find me at Angela Jia Kim. Jia is the middle name, Kim as in Mary is the last name. You can shop for Savor Beauty natural products, which were inspired by my Korean beauty ritual heritage. And that's at savorbeauty.com, SAVOR. And then finally, for this planner that you were just talking about, it's the first planner really on the market that prioritizes self-love, self-care before success. And that's at savorlifeplanner.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Angela. I felt like this was more of a like girl talk, just like down to earth conversation, and really reassuring for me and for our audience that going through this difficult time. I'm glad we had the space to talk about what we're really feeling, you know, and definitely going off the script, but I'm always off the script anyway. And I want my audience to know that we always try to keep it real so that we can provide the best, you know, content for you. So Thank you again, Angela. I always like to ask my guests this last question. What makes you your most lit up self?
Well, it really is getting in touch with my inner essence.
Beautiful.
It really is about that. Yeah. So that's a very simple, succinct, and honest answer.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.